I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about God's heart when He first created man and He assigned the roles that He did between man and woman. And I think about how over time, what He declared as far as, you know, man being the leader and women being helpers, how that's been perverted over time. And so I began thinking, though it has been perverted, though people have made the Bible to appear as though it is misogynistic or, women are like the scum of the earth and we're just weak and we have no place. And, what women traditionally did as helpers, as homemakers, appearing as though making it seem as though it's nothing. I had to really take a step back and think about like God's heart when He designed man to be the leader, when He created women to be helpers. Like, what was the heart in that? And we know that everything that God does is from a place of love. So was His intent to say that, women are just weak and they're second class, so they just need to be helpers, and men are superior, so they need to be the ones at the forefront, they need to be the leaders, I love them more, I love women less? Obviously, like, we know that to not be true. And so if that's not the case, and this is what society is preaching, or how they make it seem when women step into roles of helping, when women choose to step away from a place of leadership or a place of being on the forefront to step back and to be a helper the way that she was created to be. Now, unless she's leading women, right? The Bible tells us that the Titus 2 women, she teaches the younger women. So, obviously it's appropriate according to scripture for women to teach women, or lead women. But when a woman chooses not to lead, when she chooses to embrace her femininity, when she chooses to serve, I have to really look at God's heart when He created women in this way and when He created men in the way that He did. And what I'm coming to understand is that as a loving father, His heart is always love. There's always an end goal. There's always purpose. Everything that He does, there's purpose in it. He's not a purposeless God. And so what was God's intention? What was His purpose in doing that? Right? Maybe it's the fact that God understood what men embody and what women embodied. And so the characteristics that He's placed within us, the roles that He's given us, it's to achieve a greater good, right? Maybe God understood that, in order for things to operate and function at the capacity He desires for it to, there has to be balance, there has to be equilibrium. And so there has to be a balance of different components that come together in order to achieve the greater vision and the greater good that He desires for us. When we think about society and when we think about the way that the world functions, it wouldn't function well if everybody embodied the characteristic of a man and did everything that a man did. And it wouldn't function well or be well balanced if everyone did what a woman did and functioned the way that a woman did. And so God knew that in order for there to be balance, in order for there to be everything that needs to be there for this world to function the way that I desire it to, this is how I have to establish creation. And I think we have to also look at the fact that, like, God's desire for creating us, His primary function of creating us was to dwell with Him, to dwell in His presence, and to worship Him. That is our first and foremost purpose in creation, right? As men and women, as sons and daughters of God. And so when we look at, okay, well, how can we do this? How do we carry this out? Then we can look at the different assignments and the different functions that God has called us to. And so when it comes to those assignments and functions, it's kind of like it all builds off of each other, right? So we start off as sons and daughters. We start off as creations. We are sons and daughters. From sons and daughters, we, are men and women. And in order to dwell with God, in order to be with Him, in order to achieve His will, everybody needs a role. Everybody needs a function. So He assigns that. But He loves us equally. right? There's not one that's greater than the other, but we have different functions and we have different roles in order to create this balance of what God desires to see in the earth, what he desires in the earth. So it goes back to the point of, when I really look at the whole picture, when I really dissect and go back to the heart of God, I have got to understand, his purpose, why he does what he does, and separating that from how the world makes it seem, from how the enemy has perverted it, how he has caused deception. We've got to be able to separate and see from the lens of God, see from the heart of God, and not from the heart of this world.